We're overlooking a flood chute, a natural feature for this area. We're also facing the same direction that Union troops would have approached this position by. On the other side today we see a lot of trees, but back in the 1860s this was farmland. The trees that did remain, many would be cut down to open up fields of fire and also to build a temporary breastwork made of logs and fence rails. We don't know exactly where it was located because being temporary, it would have been removed shortly after the Civil War, but we know it was anchored up against the flood chute. When archaeologists came through with their metal detectors, what they found on the other side of the bridge is a lot of spent Union bullets and a few dropped Confederate bullets, telling us that certainly something was going on here. Union after action reports tell us that there was a lot of fighting going on in this position. This is an artist's interpretation of what the battlefield may have looked like. You'll notice in the background no trees because again this was farmland. Just over my shoulder is going to be the bridge, and I'm standing on Old State Road, and back in the day this was the State Road. It was a major artery connecting Charleston with Columbia. We talked earlier about the temporary breastworks. Depicted right there behind those breastworks would have been 1,000 infantry and 2 pieces of artillery. This was considered a strong defensive position. Behind me, of course, is the bridge and the Congaree Creek. On either side of the creek are very tall embankments, 15 to 20 feet tall. Behind it are the earthworks, 1.5 miles of earthworks. Behind it, 1,500 dismounted cavalry and pieces of artillery. Any frontal assault here would have been suicidal. You're looking down what was the State Road. This is the route by which the Union right wing would have approached the position by. Leading the way is the 1st Division of the 15th Corps, commanded by General Charles Woods. He commands about 4,700 men, 3 brigades, and has access to 3 artillery batteries. At about 10 o'clock in the morning, the advance guard reaches the scene, and they are warmly greeted by Confederate artillery. Woods knows exactly what to do. He's done it before. The first thing he does is he orders the 1st Brigade to stay put. They will be held in reserve. The 2nd Brigade is ordered to form a skirmish line 300 yards distant from the breastworks. Guarding their flank will be the 46th Ohio. The 46th Ohio is also to try to find a way across the creek. When they approach the creek, they find Confederate forces strongly entrenched. There's no way they can cross there. They follow the creek downstream a bit, and they do find a place where they can safely cross, but their plans change. They are ordered to send just a reconnaissance party across. The rest of the group is to return to State Road. Rather than return the route they took, they followed the nooks and crannies of the creek itself, staying hidden from the eyes of the Confederate forces. Woods then orders a 3rd Brigade to form a double skirmish line off to the left. Guarding their flank will be the 4th Iowa. The 4th Iowa is also tasked with finding a way across the creek. They will travel about 1/2 mile past the Confederate earthworks before they find a safe passage. Once across, they are to stay quiet, stay low, stay out of sight, and wait for reinforcements before they begin their attack. But they are spotted right away, and the firing begins. Meanwhile, the rest of the 3rd Brigade has started to encroach upon the flood chute. We talked about that earlier. The fighting going on there was fierce. So fierce that the Confederates pulled some troops from the other end of their breastworks to defend that section, and allowing then the 2nd Brigade of the Union force to start moving in even closer. So if you can imagine what's going through their minds, they're being pressured on all sides. There's now firing behind them. It's time to evacuate that position. As they cross the bridge, they try to set fire to it. They put a torch to it and it goes up in flames. But because of all the rain and all the mud that's been tracked on the bridge barely gets damaged. But while it burns, the balance of the 46th Ohio races to the bridge. They fight for about 10 minutes under heavy musket and artillery fire to put the fires out and repair the bridge to the point where it can be used again. At this point, it's now about 2 o'clock, pushing 2:30. The Confederates realize they are being outflanked in all positions. It's time to retreat, and they retreat up State Road. The shooting will finally be over around 4 o'clock when the Union troops break. They make camp, they make their own earthworks, prepare for a counterattack which never comes. To put things in perspective, let's look at this LIDAR map. Right here is State Road, the route by which the Union right wing would have approached. Parallel to these red lines, and if you look very closely, you'll see the shadows of the earthworks. The red lines were put there to show you where the earthworks are. This particular section of earthworks are considered a major section, behind which would have been Confederate artillery. This line represents the temporary breastworks. Notice how it butts up against the flood chute. In this area, there was very heavy fighting.